Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. This is a new film from 2023, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 2 hours, 13 minutes, and it is the first part of director Zack Snyder's new film, franchise of Rebel Moon. Now, as of the recording of this video, we have a Rotten Tomato score of 24% from the critics. Feels harsh. uh, 73% from the audience, and a letterbox average rating of 2.6. And, right off the bat, I'll say, talking about any Zack Snyder movies, I don't know that any of those metrics can be trusted. I feel like for some reason, obviously, he's a very polarizing director, whether it be his work or even the fan base, that there's definitely a bad batch over there. But as you guys may know from watching the channel, I like Zack Snyder. I like most of his movies. I talk about him all the time on our live streams, and I get a lot of shit for it. But that's okay, because that's kind of what we do, right? Like, we each like different things, and we also try to explain why we do like what we do like. So here in this video, I'm gonna be telling you why overall I enjoyed a Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. Now, it's not a perfect film. It's not even my favorite Zack Snyder film. Now, I've only seen it once as of the release of the movie. So I definitely want to check it out again. I'll probably do that later on, closer to April, when the second part's going to come out, Scargiver. But let me give you a quick synopsis for those that may not be familiar with the story. From Zack Snyder, the filmmaker behind 300, Men of Steel, Army of the Dead, and of course, Zack Snyder's Justice League, comes a Rebel Moon, an epic science fantasy event decades in the making. And that's true because Zack Snyder pitched, like, he had been pitching Disney a Star Wars film, and they're like, no, that's okay. So he just went out and made his own Star Wars, which seems to be a very common theme. Like, I think creators are just going out on their own. But we proceed. When a peaceful color colony on the edge of a galaxy finds itself threatened by the armies of the tyrannical ruling force, Korra, a mysterious stranger living among the villagers, becomes their best hope for survival, tasked with finding trained fighters who will unite with her in making an impossible stand against the Mother World. Korra assembles a small band of warriors, outsiders, insurgents, peasants, and orphans of war from different worlds who share a common need for redemption and revenge. As the shadow of an entire realm bears down on the unlikeliest of moons, the battle over the fate of the galaxy is waged, and in the process, a new army of heroes is formed. That's a lot. We'll get into it. This movie starts with it's a long cast, so I'm gonna highlight a lot of the people that I thought were pretty important to the story so far. So we have Sophia Botello plays Korra, Charlie Hunnam plays Kai, Ed Skrein plays Admiral Atticus Noble, Jenna Malone is Harmada, Anthony Hopkins plays Jimmy, the narrator and the robot you'll see in the film. We also have Carrie Ills, who I'll leave the role undisclosed. Michelle Huzam is Gunner. Cleopatra Coleman is Deborah Bloodaxe. Jamun Hansu, General Titus. Bay Duna is Nemesis. Corey Stoll plays Stuart Martin. Stas Nair plays Tarak. And Ray Fisher plays Deborah's brother, Darian Bloodaxe. Cool last names. I think that's probably the Bloodaxe is probably my favorite naming convention of the Rebel Moon franchise. So, how was this film? I thought it was a great time. I was very entertained. At 2 hours and 13 minutes, it definitely feels very slow paced. There's a lot of world building. There's a lot of exposition. I think one thing I mentioned during my initial reaction that you can check on the channel on our shorts is that if you're not a fan of Zack Snyder, I don't think this film is going to change that for you. But if you're a fan of Zack Snyder, I think this movie's going to kind of like check all the boxes from the way he makes movies, right? I think he makes movies in a very specific way. He makes movies in a way that he himself enjoys them. So that sometimes clashes with people's either aesthetic or their approach or even their enjoyment of storytelling. Because this is a very simple story. It's very by the books. There is one really big thing that happens that feels kind of like a twist that I didn't see it come out of, like, I didn't expect that was going to happen in this film, or at least in this first half of the film. But I thought that brought a lot to the, like, it really added. Like when we got to that point, I thought it was really fun. We have some great performances. Sophia Botello really put this movie on her shoulders and just kind of went for it as our protagonist. And you want to root for her, but she's also a badass. So like, she kind of just doesn't mess around. Charlie Hunnam, very charismatic. I really like his performance. We also have Ed Screen. Like, he makes you hate him from like minute one. He is obviously, he acts as Admiral Atticus Noble. He's part of the Mother World. And man, he just immediately, like, he's such a good villain just because, I don't know, he has that one little undescribable thing that feels like, um, one of my surprises, because I forgot Anthony Hopkins' voice in this as both the narrator and, like I said, Jimmy, who is a robot that's been kind of relegated to work for the Mother World, and it's left in this moon that we visit, in this colony that we visit. Um, he Anthony Hopkins always adds a lot of gravitas, I think, to any film. I think it makes it feel more important. There's a specific reason why he was cast, and I completely understand it. I think Zack Snyder was collecting, like, from all sorts of walks of life, because there's a lot of people here that I've never heard of, and they deliver great performances. One of my favorite, like, especially at, like, action wise, Bay Duna as Nemesis. First of all, Nemesis, fantastic name. I love, like, just super cool. Nemesis is one of the characters that wields those, like, laser type of swords. Like, oh, they're not lightsabers, but they might as well be. And yeah, all those action sequences are really cool. Ray Fisher coming back as Darian Bloodaxe really delivers, like, a great performance. He's very imposing. He feels like I didn't even recognize him at first until, like, until I was going through the cast list, and I was like, oh snap, that was Ray Fisher. Holy shit! So he really disappeared into that role, which I thought that was very cool. Um, as I mentioned, and I'll go into it when I get into spoilers. I'll go more into the story itself, but the story is very straightforward. As I mentioned in the synopsis, like, these the people from this colony need help. Korra is the only one that can gather all these people. But of course, the Mother World is after them. So that's kind of like what ensues, and it checks a lot of the tropes, of, like, any sci-fi film where you have to go somewhere, you have to go multiple places, you have to kind of complete these weird tasks, and that's kind of how you do the world building in this movie. So there's definitely nothing that felt like really new, other than the looks of the characters. Those really felt unique, I thought. There's a lot of, like, every, first of all, everyone is jacked. Like, as any Zack Snyder movie, if you want to get in shape, you get cast in a Zack Snyder movie, and he'll put you to work. So yeah, everyone's jacked. I think people look great. Like, some of the sci-fi characters, whether they have to be behind, like, prosthetics, you could tell a lot of this stuff was definitely on set, not CGI. But there's also a lot of CGI like characters, some intriguing sci-fi tropes, like, a character kind of controlling a humanoid to communicate, stuff like that. Like, just these little weird aliens all over the place that kind of pop up. But for the most part, our main cast is kind of humanoid. They just kind of, they just have very different looks because they're from different parts of this galaxy, so it makes sense, right? uh the action, I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder, the way he shoots the action, the slow mo, like, just getting real up close and into the gritty nitty gritty of it all. I know that's not everyone's preferred style, and I think some people prefer more fast paced stuff, like more in a John Wick type of movie, which I also appreciate. So, like, I'm just kind of a sucker for a good action sequence. And yeah, this movie definitely delivers on all that. Like I said, it's not reinventing anything, it's not redefining anything. Um, one thing I will say, I feel like the only thing is that the editing feels a little weird. Like, I don't know if there's stuff that may be missing, or because they had to split this film up into two pieces. There's stuff that they were kind of setting up that would have been paid off. Like, sometimes it feels like a thread was just kind of left there hanging. But it's not to the detriment of the film. I just feel like if it had paid off, or if it had kind of been finalized, that loop had been closed, or maybe they removed something to kind of avoid that kind of stuff. Like, so there's a little bit of weird editing there. We know there's an R-rated cut of this film that I'm sure Netflix will put out sometime in the future because they want to keep subscribers. So yeah, it is still a very entertaining film if you're looking for a sci-fi kind of romp with action and just like very cool looking visuals. Like Zack Snyder knows how to deliver and all that stuff. My last thing I'll touch on before we get into spoilers: the score for this film is fantastic. I forgot to look into who did the score, but oh my god! So I was shooting a watch along commentary along with doing this along with watching the film. So I had my AirPods on, and oh boy, the score, like every time the tension needed to rise, there was just like this song that kind of hit hard during the action scenes, during some of those slow mo moments, and even during some of the more quiet moments. Like just a very nice, soothing score. So there's really not a lot of needle drops, I would say. It's really the soundtrack is more of just like this orchestral type of score that makes this space opera feel grand and epic and mysterious and scary at some points, but also kind of full of hope. Because and ultimately that's what this movie is trying to bring, right? That the colony and these rebels have a fighting chance against the mother world. So yeah, really enjoy this. So we're gonna get into a little bit of spoilers. So come back. You can check out the longer version of this video if that's the case. So here we go. Um, I'll start with the biggest thing to me. I did not expect. So we're in spoilers now. I did not expect Charlie Hunnam's character of Kai to betray everyone. And I know, going back and thinking about it, they kind of hinted at it, but I felt like they were gonna. I felt like there's a moment where they're going to deliver this cargo that Kai has, where it feels like they're going into a trap, but I didn't think Kai was the reason that that was happening, right? So there are some big epic deaths in this film from some of these characters that I mentioned, including, unfortunately, Ray Fisher's character of Darian Bloodaxe. He sacrifices himself, but I was upset because I liked his character a lot. I thought he delivered a great performance, and I wanted to see more. But I think that's gonna lead and kind of catapult Cleopatra Coleman's Deborah Bloodaxe character into the forefront during the next film, right? Because in this one, she was kind of like hands off, like, look, we're doing our own rebellion thing. We don't really have the time to go help these people. But Darian kind of said, I'll fight for them. So I feel like that, like the synopsis said, this is a story of redemption and revenge, and I feel like Cleopatra Coleman's Deborah will come back in the next film to avenge her brother. Also, Charlie Hunnam is out. He's taken out in this film. Very much expected. He plays really well, this scoundrel, and it gives a lot of Han Solo. Uh, but I'm glad that the twist happened, because this has to be a different film. Zack Snyder is not just making, he's not just remaking Star Wars. He's making kind of his own Star Wars, right? So that was very interesting. I think Jarman Hansu as General Titus has probably one of the most interesting backstories that I want them to explore more. He's touted as this uh war mastermind that can really bring down this empire. So, and of course, the last thing that I'll say, as far as these characters, I guess two things. First of all, Jenna Malone's Armada gives one of the better fights, as this like gigantic spider lady versus Nemesis. It looks really cool. It gives Gunner a chance to stand up. This is a story of redemption for Gunner. He's the one that kind of caused everything to happen. He's the one that caused Stewart, played by Corey Stoltz, to die at the hands of Admiral Noble. So like he's the one that needs redemption. While Cora also seeks redemption. Um, that's character wise, that's pretty much it. There's a little few things that we're hinted at, like there's something else more magical happening, and of course we see that through Cora's experience while protecting the original princess. And then we also experience something similar when Jimmy's talking to Sam, who is one of the farm girls. in the colony, and something kind of like a switch kind of flips inside of Jimmy, and then at the end of the film, we see that the crown of flowers that Sam had built for Jimmy has been replaced with like these antler horns. So I'm very interested in seeing what happens. I think Jimmy's gonna be another thing that they may have to like. I feel like uh, Jimmy's gonna either come through and help the rebels, or be somebody that they have to maybe face off against in the future. Either way, I'm super on board because I want more Anthony Hopkins, and I miss seeing Anthony Hopkins as the villain. He was a great Hannibal Lecter, so I would love to see that. So yeah, that's really it. We have a lot of coverage for this. I've mentioned before that Rebel Moon was probably going to be my Roman Empire, so definitely treating it as such in the channel. So as I mentioned, I shot a watch along commentary, which will release. We'll release some reactions, like a shorter summary video of like some reactions in some big moments in the film, and then I'll also release the full length video if somebody wants to kind of sync it along and watch that. So, uh, as always, thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what you thought of this film. If you've seen it, stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone.